Have you ever felt the instantaneous shift in the atmosphere, a sudden and profound silence from a man you thought you knew? One day the connection is present, a tangible force. The next there is only a cold, echoing void where he used to be. This abrupt withdrawal is not a glitch in communication, nor is it a sign of confusion or weakness. It is a verdict delivered with the chilling finality of silence. It is the ultimate, non-negotiable act of a man who has judged a situation to be fundamentally incompatible with his inner world, a man who values his peace and his path above all external noise. Welcome to the Sigma Male community. This channel is a sanctuary for the self-reliant, a forge for the independent mind, and a guide for men who understand that true strength isn't loud or performative, but sovereign and self-contained. Today we are not just observing a phenomenon, we are dissecting the core programming behind one of the most misunderstood actions of the Sigma male, the reason he walks away without warning and surgically removes you from his life. This is not about ghosting. This is about a final, definitive protocol, and understanding it is key to understanding the Sigma mindset itself. 1. The Autonomy Ultimatum, Ruthless Independence. For the man who walks the Sigma path, autonomy is not a mere preference or a lifestyle choice. It is the very air he breathes, the foundational bedrock upon which his entire existence is built. His sovereignty is his inner citadel, the most sacred space he possesses, and he guards its walls with a vigilance that others might mistake for paranoia. Any relationship, professional or personal, that begins to feel like a leash, that attempts to dictate his choices, manage his time or coerce his emotions, is immediately identified not as an inconvenience, but as an existential threat. This encroachment on his freedom is a declaration of war on his very nature, and his response is not to engage in a battle of wills, but to render the battlefield irrelevant by simply vanishing from it. He doesn't offer explanations or enter into negotiations because, from his perspective, the moment his self-governance was challenged, the negotiation was already over. To argue or justify his need for freedom would be to legitimize the attempt to take it away. Therefore, the withdrawal is swift, silent, and absolute. It's a strategic retreat to preserve the integrity of his being. This isn't born from malice or a lack of courage to confront. On the contrary, it is the ultimate expression of courage, the courage to uphold a non-negotiable principle, even at the cost of a connection. For the Sigma, a life lived on someone else's terms is not a life at all, and compromising his independence is a form of self-betrayal he will not tolerate. 2. The growth imperative, avoiding stagnation. The Sigma male is hardwired for evolution. He views his life not as a state to be maintained, but as a project of perpetual improvement, a relentless ascent toward a higher version of himself. He actively seeks out challenges, craves new knowledge, and is driven by an insatiable need to expand his capabilities, both mental and physical. In this context, stagnation is not just boredom, it is a form of spiritual death, a suffocating cage that chokes his potential. When a relationship, a friendship, or a career path ceases to offer avenues for growth, when the conversations become repetitive, the challenges disappear, and the environment promotes complacency, he feels the pull of inertia, and it terrifies him more than any external threat. This is why he walks away from situations that others might find comfortable or secure. Comfort is the enemy of his progress. He doesn't see the departure as abandonment, but as a vital and necessary act of shedding dead weight to continue his climb. To stay in a stagnant environment is to betray his own potential, to agree to a slow and silent decay of his spirit. He understands on a primal level that growth requires friction, challenge, and change. When a connection becomes an echo chamber instead of a launch pad, his internal compass recalibrates and points directly toward the exit, seeking the fresh, untamed wilderness of the unknown where his next evolution awaits. 3. The truth litmus test, uncompromised honesty. In the economy of the Sigma male's world, truth is the only currency with any real value. Honesty, in its most raw and unfiltered form, is the sacred foundation upon which any meaningful connection must be built. He is not naive. He understands the social niceties and the white lies people tell to smooth over interactions. But he has zero tolerance for them in his inner circle. Deception, whether through blatant lies, calculated omissions, or manipulative sugarcoating, is a corrosive acid that instantly dissolves the bonds of trust. His perception is a finely tuned instrument, exceptionally skilled at detecting the dissonance between words and actions, between a presented facade and the true motive lurking beneath. When this instrument detects a falsehood, the connection is irrevocably fractured. He doesn't need a confession or an apology, and he certainly won't waste his energy demanding one. The act of dishonesty is, in itself, the complete and total message. It signals that the other person is operating on a different, incompatible frequency of integrity. To confront the lie would be to invite more lies, to engage in a theatrical performance of feigned remorse and hollow promises. Instead, he chooses the path of stoic integrity. He simply withdraws, preserving his own reality from the contamination of falsehood. His silence is not a punishment. It is a consequence, the natural and logical outcome of a failed litmus test for truth. 4. The solitude sanctuary, thriving alone. Modern society often pathologizes loneliness, treating it as a void that must be filled at all costs. For the Sigma, this is a profound misunderstanding. Solitude is not his enemy, it is his kingdom. It is a deliberately chosen sanctuary where he recharges, clarifies his thoughts, and connects with his most authentic self. He is not a hermit isolated by fear, but a sovereign ruler who finds immense strength and clarity in his own company. Unlike those who are desperately seeking external validation to feel complete, the Sigma is already a whole entity. His self-worth is internally generated and requires no outside affirmation. Because he is not running from a void, he evaluates relationships based on a simple, ruthless criterion. Do they enhance his life or do they drain it? A connection is judged by the value it adds, not the emptiness it fills. If a relationship becomes a source of unnecessary drama, emotional taxation, or psychic noise that disturbs the peace of his inner sanctuary, he will retreat back into his solitude without a moment's hesitation. The fear of being alone, a chain that keeps so many people tethered to toxic situations, has no hold on him. His own company is not a last resort, it is his ultimate refuge and his greatest source of power. 5. The manipulation ejector seat, rejecting emotional games. The Sigma male possesses what can only be described as a hypersensitive radar for emotional manipulation. He sees through the subtle and insidious tactics that many people use to control others. The guilt trips, the passive aggression, the veiled threats, the weaponized incompetence, and the pity plays. To him, these are not just annoying behaviors. They are deeply disrespectful, a sign of intellectual and emotional dishonesty. They are a direct assault on his intelligence and his autonomy. He sees these games for what they are, a pathetic attempt to gain power and control without the courage to be direct and honest. Engaging with a manipulator, even to call them out on their behavior, is a losing proposition. It is playing their game on their field by their rules. It validates their tactics by giving them the attention and emotional reaction they crave. The Sigma understands this instinctively. He refuses to be a character in someone else's poorly written drama. His response is not to argue or to unmask the manipulator, but to hit the ejector seat. The disengagement is instantaneous, silent, and permanent. This is not an act of confusion. It is the ultimate dismissal, a clear and unspoken statement that he finds the game and the player utterly beneath his dignity to engage with. His emotional energy is a precious resource, and he refuses to waste it on deciphering such transparent and dishonorable tactics. Let's cut through the static. If you resonate with this, the relentless drive for truth, the non-negotiable need for freedom, then you understand the cost of compromise. Every moment spent justifying your boundaries, deciphering dishonesty, or enduring stagnation is a theft from your potential. The world will demand your conformity, your time, your emotional labor. The Sigma path demands you reclaim it. Not with anger, but with the unshakable certainty that your peace, your growth, yourself, is the only ground worth standing on. Protect it fiercely or watch it erode. The choice is binary and only you hold the key. 6. The value filter, ruthless selectivity. The Sigma's social and professional life is not a democracy, it is a curated gallery. His engagement with the world is governed by a strict, internal algorithm that is ruthlessly calibrated for depth, substance, and genuine resonance. He does not collect acquaintances or maintain relationships out of a sense of obligation, tradition, or social pressure. Superficiality, neediness, and one-sided connections are immediately flagged by his internal system as resource drains, and he treats his time and energy as his most valuable, non-renewable assets. He would rather have 1 or 2 connections of profound depth and integrity than 100 shallow ones that offer nothing but noise. Consequently, if an individual consistently fails to meet his exacting standards, whether in intellectual engagement, emotional maturity, integrity, or mutual respect, they are not put on probation, they are silently filtered out. There is no formal announcement, no dramatic confrontation. It is a quiet, irreversible deletion from his active roster. This isn't born of arrogance or a sense of superiority. It is the logical result of an uncompromising commitment to quality over quantity. He understands that every moment spent on a low-value interaction is a moment stolen from a high-value one, or from the sacred work of self-development. His selectivity is not a rejection of others, but an affirmation of his own standards. 7. The self-preservation protocol, core motivation. Strip away the mystique, the labels, and the external observations, and you will find the core motivation for the Sigma's silent exit, a highly developed self-preservation protocol. This is not about lashing out or seeking revenge. His sudden departure is rarely a first resort. It is the final, defensive measure activated when his inner equilibrium is under sustained threat. When a dynamic becomes persistently toxic, when a person consistently drains his emotional or mental reserves, or when there is a fundamental clash of core values that cannot be reconciled, disconnection ceases to be an option and becomes an absolute necessity. He prioritizes the sanctity of his mental space and the conservation of his energy above all else, especially above the societal expectation that he must provide closure or endure prolonged discomfort for the sake of another's feelings. He understands a Stoic truth: you cannot control the actions of others, but you can control your exposure to them. Walking away in this context is not an act of weakness or avoidance. It is the ultimate demonstration of strength, the strength to choose his own well-being over external chaos, the courage to enforce a final boundary, and the wisdom to know when a fire is best dealt with not by fighting it, but by removing all oxygen from its vicinity. 8. The novelty drive, seeking new experiences. The mind of a Sigma is a frontier and he is its relentless explorer. He is driven by an insatiable hunger for novelty, not for the sake of mere distraction, but for the expansion of his understanding and capabilities. New experiences, fresh perspectives, uncharted intellectual territories, and novel challenges are the very lifeblood of his existence. A connection, whether romantic or platonic, must contribute to this forward momentum. It must be a source of mutual learning, genuine stimulation, and shared exploration. When it ceases to be that, it loses its purpose in his life. Once a relationship becomes entirely predictable, once the patterns are set in stone and the intellectual well runs dry, his interest inevitably wanes. Nostalgia and shared history hold very little power over him if the present is barren. He doesn't detach out of callousness or a short attention span. He detaches because his very nature compels him to move toward what is new, challenging, and alive. To remain in a familiar but intellectually sterile environment feels like a betrayal of his exploratory spirit. For the Sigma, familiarity without growth is just another name for a cage, and he is constitutionally incapable of remaining caged for long. 9. The closure conundrum, unnecessary explanations. The modern world is obsessed with the concept of closure, often envisioning it as a long, drawn-out conversation where feelings are dissected, blame is assigned, and goodbyes are formally exchanged. To the Sigma, this entire ritual seems redundant, emotionally indulgent, and profoundly inefficient. He operates on a principle where action is the ultimate form of communication. The withdrawal is the closure. The silence is the message. It is a communication so clear, so absolute, that to supplement it with words would be to dilute its power. He trusts his own discernment. If a connection was truly valuable and built on mutual understanding, the reasons for its end should be self-evident to both parties. If the other person is incapable of understanding why he left, then explaining it would be a futile exercise like trying to describe the color blue to someone who cannot see. It would invariably devolve into a pointless debate, an emotional quagmire that drains his energy and achieves nothing. He conserves his resources for his forward path, not for dissecting the past. His final act is one of stoic finality. The book is closed and he feels no need to stand around reading the last chapter aloud. 0. The flattery firewall, mistrust of praise. While many people are driven by the pursuit of external validation and praise, the Sigma male possesses a powerful internal firewall against flattery. Excessive, unsolicited, or unearned compliments do not soothe his ego, they trigger his skepticism. He is far more likely to interpret such praise not as genuine admiration, but as a potential Trojan horse, a strategic maneuver designed to ingratiate, to disarm, or to manipulate him for a hidden agenda. His sense of self-worth is forged internally, through his actions, his competence, and his adherence to his own code. Therefore, external opinions, especially overly positive ones, hold very little weight. He craves authenticity above all else. Genuine respect, in his view, is demonstrated through actions, through intellectual honesty, and through directness. It is not conveyed through a torrent of sugar-coated words. When someone lays the praise on too thick, it rings like a loud, false alarm in his perceptive mind. It signals a lack of authenticity that prompts him to create immediate emotional distance. He isn't looking for a cheerleader or a sycophant. He is looking for a peer. Hollow flattery is the fastest way to signal that you are not one, prompting him to disengage before the inevitable attempt at manipulation even begins. 11. The evolutionary pruning, disconnection for growth. Perhaps the most crucial reason for the silent exit is that the Sigma does not view endings as failures. He reframes them as a necessary and strategic act of evolutionary pruning. Just as a master gardener cuts away dying or overgrown branches to allow a plant to channel its energy into healthy, fruitful growth, the Sigma periodically disconnects from people, jobs, and situations that no longer align with his evolving self. He understands that holding on to these outdated connections actively hinders his progress, consuming vital resources that could be invested in his future. Each deliberate disconnection is an act of liberation. It is the creation of a vacuum, a cleared space in his life into which something new, more challenging, and more aligned with his current trajectory can grow. He is not afraid of the temporary void or the discomfort that comes with release. He embraces it, knowing with absolute certainty that it is the prerequisite for his next phase of development. For him, the ultimate tragedy is not ending a connection, but clinging to one that has already expired, allowing it to hold him back from his destiny. Stagnation is death. Strategic disconnection is the engine of life. So, the silent exit, the sudden departure, is not an act of cruelty, but one of ultimate clarity. It is not an emotional tantrum, but a logical conclusion. It is the final decisive action of a man who has made a conscious choice to prioritize his sovereignty, his growth, and his integrity above all else. It is a powerful expression of self-preservation, a testament to a life lived deliberately, not by default. This understanding is not just abstract knowledge, it is a tool. It is the framework you can use to build your own life of purpose, to audit your own connections, and to have the courage to make the hard decisions that your own growth demands. If what we have discussed today has struck a chord deep within you, if it has validated your own instincts, take a moment to reflect on its meaning for your path. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do these reasons resonate with your own experiences? Your insights are what forge the true strength of this community. Share this video with another man who is walking his own path, one who may find clarity and validation in this perspective. And finally, if you have not yet done so, subscribe to the Sigma Male community and, most importantly, activate the notification bell. We are not here to offer fleeting entertainment. We are here to provide the enduring wisdom required for a life of sovereignty, resilience, and unwavering strength. Stay vigilant, stay true to your path, and never, ever compromise your inner citadel.